One thing that you'll quickly realize, once you have your rig loaded with baits, it's quite a handful to cast. That's why it's important to select the correct rod and line when fishing one of these rigs. It's no different than when you're fishing a crankbait, topwater, or finesse tactic. You have to select the right rod to handle the application. My choice for fishing one of these rigs is a Delvisco rod's flipping stick or swim bait rod. And trust me when I tell you that you'll feel it at the end of the day if you don't choose the proper rod. You need a rod with the right combination of balance, tip action, and length. And the guys at Delvisco rods have you covered with their Savvy and Champion series. Quality components, great lengths and actions, and handle styles with many models to choose from to fit your needs. One of the other considerations you've got to make is what type of line that you want to fish. Fishing with a flipping stick or a swim bait rod and one of these heavy rigs that could weigh 3 or 4 ounces, you've got to pick the right type of line to get the job done. And in open water circumstances, out in the middle of the lake, up in pockets, places where there's really no obstructions for either the bait to get hung up on or a fish to drag you down into the cover, I'm always going to select fluorocarbon line. Fluorocarbon stretches a lot less than monofilament line. It's very abrasion resistant, it's invisible in the water, and it's very castable. I can cast it an awful long way, and that's one of the important things with fishing one of these rigs. Sometimes you've got to make a long cast. The other thing, or the other consideration that really needs to be made, if I'm fishing around some type of cover where this bait could potentially get hung up on, I want a line that I'm going to be able to, maybe bend one of these hooks out, put enough pressure on it where I don't lose my entire rig, or if I need to get some fish away from that cover, I can do that without potentially breaking my fluorocarbon line. That application requires braid. Now braid stretches about 1%, so it stretches a whole lot less. It's super strong. The diameter of the line is very, very thin. But one problem with braided lines is they have a tendency when you're fishing very, very heavy baits, and like I said, this could weigh 3 or 4 ounces when this whole rig is assembled, and you're making a long cast, braided lines can have a tendency to backlash. But the guys at Suffolk have come up with this braided line called 832, and it's basically 7 strands of Dyneema wrapped with 1 strand of gore, and it's wrapped 32 times per inch. What they get with that combination is a braided line that casts very, very far. It's more rounded of a line, whereas some other braided lines are oval. So that takes a lot of that backlash out of the equation when you're needing to throw a rig like this an awful long way. You can do it safely with this 832 braid. It's very, very user friendly. It's very soft. You can cast it a long way. It'll get the job done, and it's super strong. And it'll help you get the fish out and away from the cover so you can land them. The other thing too is you may get anywhere from 1 to 5 fish on one of these rigs. So you really need, a strong enough line to be able to, work potentially 14 or 15 pounds of fish to the boat. Now with this rig, I found if you've got multiple fish hooked up on the rig all at once, it's a lot like winding in just a big wet boot. They don't fight, they kind of fight against each other a little bit. So it's not like you've got one 15-pound fish that's really pulling hard. It's more weight than anything. So you want to make sure you pick a strong enough line to be able to handle the situations that you're fishing. Fluorocarbon anywhere from 17 to 20 pound test. The braided lines 50, 60, 80 pound test, and that'll get the job done. So there you have it, selecting the proper rod and picking the right line for fishing an Alabama style rig. And as always, you can find any of these products on BassTackleDepot.com.